In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, September 22nd. Speaking at a forum in New York University, President Yoon proposes a digital bill of human rights to guarantee that digital technology serves to promote broader global welfare. And on the local political front, the parliament here passes motions to dismiss Prime Minister Han Duck-soo for policy failures and to arrest opposition leader Lee Jae-myung for corruption charges. Meanwhile, Team Korea's men's football team is advancing into the round of 16, having won its match against Thailand in the Asian Games, which officially kick off this coming Saturday in the Chinese city of Hangzhou. President Yoon Suk-yeol has called for the creation of a universally accepted digital order to ensure that advances in related technology defend human dignity and broader democracy. Our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has declared the Digital Bill of Rights in New York and aligned with the United States as a value-based partner in the future of artificial intelligence amid the polarizing impact of digitalization and the global race for technological supremacy. The South Korean leader on Thursday spoke at New York University's Digital Vision Forum for a second straight year, where he set out 5 guiding principles for the so-called New York Initiative to serve as a compass to navigate the era of deepening digitalization.
디지털 격차가 인간의 존엄을 훼손하거나 또 늘어나는 가짜 뉴스가 민주주의와 자유를 위협하지 않을지 걱정의 목소리도 커지고 있습니다. 이처럼 디지털 심화로 나타나는 실존적 위험은 이제 더 이상 미룰 수 없는 시급한 문제입니다. 디지털은 국경이 없고 연결성과 즉시성을 가지고 있습니다. 그러기에 국제적으로 통용되는 보편적 질서가 중요합니다.
The principles call for technology to be developed and used to expand the dignity, value, freedom and rights of individuals rather than reinforce discrimination and prejudice. Yoon said fair access and opportunity for digital use must be guaranteed to create economic and social value while preventing individual harm and the spread of disinformation. He further called for investment in research and development, talent pools and regulatory changes to enable innovation that drives prosperity for humanity. Lastly, Yoon reissued this call made at recent global summits and at the UN General Assembly the previous day for multilateral efforts to close the digital divide between the advanced and developing economies to ensure peace and shared prosperity in the world. The government plans to announce the Bill of Rights and encourage major partner countries and international organizations to adopt the principles. South Korea's push to establish an ethical, rules-based digital order is all the more crucial as major economies vie for influence over global norms and standards, according to Choi Sang-mok, Yoon's senior economic secretary. In that regard, as Seoul expands its value-based cooperation with Washington, Yoon also signed a Memorandum of Understanding with NYU to jointly develop world-class artificial intelligence with 3 Korean institutes. Korea and the US will each invest some $45 billion over 5 years.
The partnership indicates that we have set out the path for cooperation across the entire business process in AI, from human resources training to research and development to market commercialization. In short, the foundation for solidarity in AI has been established between Korea and the US.
Going forward, President Yoon said South Korea will play its part in establishing global digital norms and striving for digital innovation in collaboration with the world to maximize freedom and welfare for all of humanity. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, New York.
Also in New York, the president's bilateral summits with his partners on the margins of the UN General Assembly continued well into Thursday. My colleague Kim Do-yeon covers this agenda aimed at broadening Korea's global reach and boosting support for Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo.
President Yoon continued his relay of summits in New York on Thursday as he met with leaders one after another in an effort to expand South Korea's diplomatic relations with the world while making sure to request support for Busan's bid to host the World Expo 2030. The list of leaders that Yoon met spanned the continents and economies of all sizes, with at least 10 sit-downs on Thursday alone.
During the United Nations General Assembly, we selected countries from the 189 BIE members to meet that could further enhance cooperation through the Busan Expo.
Yoon kicked off the summits with Ecuador, where he and his counterpart Guillermo Lasso acknowledged the significance of more than 60 years of formal diplomatic ties between the nations. The two countries are also in negotiations for a strategic economic cooperation agreement, and President Yoon shared that he was content that an agreement between the two would be on the way soon. He also met with a fellow UN Security Council non-permanent member for next year, Sierra Leone's leader Julius Maada Bio, and agreed to cooperate in enhancing the shared values of the two countries. In addition, President Yoon invited his Sierra Leone counterpart to the South Korea-Africa Union Summit in Seoul next year. Also significant was Yoon's meeting with the leader of North Macedonia, Stevo Pendarovsky, marking the first time the two countries held a summit after diplomatic relations were formed in 2019. Despite the young diplomatic relationship, the European nation has enjoyed economic ties with South Korea in terms of the automobile industry, and the two leaders agreed to expand relations further. President Yoon also held a lunch meeting with Paraguay's leader, as well as talks with Nepal and Guinea-Bissau. And while the leaders may not have promised votes at the BIE openly, the top office says the meetings should have a positive impact.
While some countries publicly state their positions, the majority approach voting without formal declarations. Therefore, engaging in face-to-face bilateral meetings to openly exchange opinions and mutually understand intentions while deriving cooperative solutions is a highly effective approach.
President Yoon's New York visit comes to a close on Friday, but according to the top office, President Yoon will be meeting with other nations until the very last minute in the same format as he has done this past week to utilize every available second to promote Busan's World Expo bid before the vote at the BIE in November. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, New York.
Staying with bilateral interactions, U.S. President Joe Biden and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelenskyy sat down for talks also on Thursday, and more military aid has been pledged to defend Ukraine from Russian invasion. Our Shin Se-byuk reports.
U.S. President Joe Biden announced a $325 million fresh military package to Ukraine on Thursday, following his meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the White House.
Today, I approve the next tranche of U.S. security assistance to Ukraine, including more artillery, more ammunition, more anti-tank weapons,
And next week, Washington is set to send the very first delivery of Abrams tanks, one of the most powerful ground weapons in the U.S. arsenal. During Thursday's meeting, the two leaders discussed the war between Ukraine and Russia. There, U.S. President Joe Biden has once again promised to continue to work alongside the international community to formalize Washington's commitment to Ukraine's long-term security.
We've begun the process of formalizing our long-term commitment to Ukraine's security alongside the G7 and with other partners. And that's why we supported just and lasting peace.
In response, Zelenskyy thanked the U.S. for supporting Ukraine.
Our regular dialogue is proof that our countries are really truly allies and strategic friends, and we greatly appreciate the vital assistance provided by the United States to Ukraine to combat.
He also emphasized the importance of military support, particularly in air defense. This was the Ukrainian president's second such visit to the U.S. capital since Russia's invasion of Ukraine early last year. Earlier the same day, Zelenskyy met with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin at the Pentagon. There, Austin assured him of Washington's continuous and active support for Ukraine to provide Kyiv with everything needed to succeed on the battlefield. The Ukrainian president, who's in the U.S., delivered his first in-person address at the UN General Assembly in New York this Tuesday. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
And in other news, a joint mission between Korea and the U.S. is underway in search of the remains of 3 American soldiers and their B-26 bomber, which crashed into the waters of Busan during the Korean War in 1953. According to Seoul's Defense Ministry on this Friday, the search has been on for 2 weeks and marks the first time the two countries are engaged in a joint search operation. It also comes at the request of the U.S. amid the 70th anniversary of the Seoul-Washington alliance. Also, on the Korean Peninsula, North Korea's Kim Jong-un has highlighted the significance of strengthening ties with Russia. Now, this is according to the regime state media on this Friday, which added that remarks to this end by Kim were shared during a Politburo meeting on Wednesday. Kim reportedly addressed follow-up measures to his recent trip to Russia, calling for closer communication and cooperation in relevant fields. The summit between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin has sparked fears about a potential weapons for technology deal. There was quite a bit of drama at the National Assembly back on Thursday. Lawmakers voted in favor of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo's dismissal and of opposition leader Lee Jae-myung's arrest. Our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
On Thursday, the National Assembly passed a motion for the arrest of Lee Jae-myung with 149 approvals, 136 disapprovals, 6 abstentions, and 4 invalids. And for the first time in history, the opposition-led motion to propose to the president the dismissal of the prime minister passed with 175 approvals, 116 disapprovals, and 4 abstentions. The number of total registered lawmakers is 298. Of them, 295 were present to vote. The prosecution sought an arrest warrant for Lee on allegations of breach of trust and third-party bribery, among others. Lee is accused of giving special developmental favors to a private contractor during the construction of apartment complexes in the Baekhyun-dong neighborhood of Seongnam City back in 2014 and 2015 while serving as the city's mayor.
Some public officials of Seongnam City disapproved of the plan as it didn't follow clearly defined existing rules, but they were ignored due to the will of Mayor Lee Jae-myung.
They also suspect that Lee has been involved in the unlawful transfer of money to North Korea, something which he and the opposition are denying.
Numerous allegations were raised, but no crimes were proven to have been committed.
By law, sitting lawmakers are immune from arrest while the assembly is in session. For them to be arrested, the assembly must consent to it. And over half of registered lawmakers must be present for voting. Of those, the majority must vote in favor. The proposal for the dismissal of the prime minister was pushed by the opposition, blaming him for what they call insufficient prevention and countermeasures for the Itaewon crowd crush, the World Scout Jamboree, and the discharge of wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The anonymous vote required majority approvals from all registered lawmakers to pass. The approval is not binding, and it's expected that the president will choose not to dismiss the prime minister, making the decision more politically symbolic. The ruling People Power Party denounced the proposal, calling it a stain on constitutional history. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
In sports news, Team Korea is advancing into the round of 16 in men's football at the Asian Games, which officially kick off tomorrow, that is Saturday, in the eastern Chinese city of Hangzhou. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
South Korea's men's football team faced off against Thailand at the Jinhwa Stadium on Thursday for their second Group B match at the Hangzhou Asian Games, where 4 different scores helped the Taeguk Warriors secure a 4-0 victory. In fact, all 4 goals scored against Thailand came in the first half of the match, with Hong Hyun-suk heading home the first in the 15th minute before An Jae-jun doubled Korea's lead just 5 minutes later for his second goal of the tournament. Won-sang also scored for the second time in this year's Asian Games, this time scoring in the 39th minute before Lee Jae-ik made it 4-0 just before the break. With 2 wins in 2 matches, South Korea advances to the knockout stages, with 1 more match left to play in Group E against Bahrain on Sunday. Meanwhile, the South Korean delegation of officials and athletes competing at the Hangzhou Asian Games were welcomed into their official residence on Thursday. Led by the head of the delegation, Yoon, some 30 athletes and officials attended the team welcoming ceremony in Hangzhou, where they were greeted by the vice mayor of Hangzhou and the executive mayor of the athletes' village, Sun Soo-dong. With a record-high participation at this year's Asian Games made up of 1,140 athletes and officials, South Korea is hopeful of winning between 40 to 50 gold medals and finishing behind China and Japan in third in the medal standings. Meanwhile, with the North Korean men's football team already having won 2 of its group stage matches, the delegation from the reclusive state will arrive at the athletes' village on Friday. Lee Jae-myung, Arirang News.
Back here in Korea, a growing number of young adults here are choosing to indulge in premium experiences, whether it be dining, wining, or even watching a movie. Our Moon Hae-yeon takes a look at this new spending trend.
I'm here in central Seoul to see the latest trend of spending big money not on items but on experiences. Young people in South Korea are upgrading classic outings like movies and drinks to more premium experiences.
Fine dining is becoming increasingly popular among the younger generation, and that includes switching out cheap soju for more expensive options like whiskey. A survey conducted by market research company Trend Monitor showed that people in their 20s and 30s had a higher percentage of positive opinions on dining at a premium restaurant than those in older age brackets. And according to research company Euromonitor, growth in whiskey consumption in South Korea was the highest recorded in the world last year, jumping by nearly 46% on year. This has culminated in unique whiskey items catered to younger tastes, such as this bingski, a combination of the word bingsu, which is a Korean dessert made from shaved ice, and whiskey. The sweetness of the bingsu with locally sourced honeycomb and coffee syrup offsets the bitterness of the whiskey. And despite the high cost of 118,000 Korean won, or roughly $88, it's gaining popularity due to the luxurious experience it presents.
Bingski is gaining popularity and has resulted in stores in Seongsu-dong and Hannam-dong, which are often frequented by Gen Zs, specifically selling it.
Whiskey is also being repackaged and reformed in other ways for its new audience. I visited this pop-up store at the heart of Seongsu-dong, the most trendy neighborhood in Seoul. It's designed as a convenience store to make it more accessible to young people, and sells items that enable customers to experience whiskey through smell as well as taste. Scented candles made from whiskey and other ingredients are popular with the customers here, with more than 500 people visiting the store per day during the week to purchase these products.
I think whiskey and highballs are popular with Gen Zs because they feel like a more tasteful way to get drunk.
Another popular upgrade of a common activity between Gen Zs is the movies.
In a cinema like this one, the overall experience is more than just watching a movie.
At this movie theatre, there is a wide range of prestige cinemas that can be enjoyed at a price of between 4 to 5 times that of a normal ticket. You can wine and dine in the restaurant downstairs before making your way up to a cinema set with comfortable armchairs, or you can choose to eat at your seat. There's even a private box, as if you're at the opera, where you can watch a film in a secluded space with a great view.
These premium cinemas used to mostly be filled by people in their 30s and 40s, but now it's also enjoyed by a lot of people in their 20s.
So why are young people choosing to spend their money this way?
The minimalism trend among the millennial and Gen Z generations means that they don't want to buy things to keep. They now value things they can use and experience.
A quintessential part of the Flex-perience is sharing and collecting information on social media platforms. And it looks as though the trend will continue to add fuel to the spending culture among youths here in South Korea. Moon Hae-yeon, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In India, the government has temporarily suspended issuing visas to Canadian citizens. This comes amid a diplomatic spat over the killing of a Sikh separatist in Canada. New Delhi said the visa suspension is over what it calls security threats against its diplomats in Canada. Meanwhile, Canada has announced that it plans to reduce its staff in India following threats made against them on social media. Tensions between the nations have spiked since Canada claimed earlier this week that there are credible allegations possibly linking the Indian government to the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The 45-year-old Sikh leader had been campaigning for a separate homeland in India for the Sikh community. He was shot and killed by 2 masked gunmen near a Sikh cultural centre in British Columbia in June. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said that he's not looking to provoke India with the allegation. India has called the murder accusation absurd. In Venezuela's northern state of Aragua, 11,000 troops on Wednesday reclaimed a prison that was being operated by a notorious gang. Troops stormed Tocorón prison to end the years-long rule of the Tren de Aragua criminal gang, known to engage in human trafficking, prostitution rings, and extorting migrants across multiple Latin American countries. The gang is said to have used the facility as its headquarters, and even installed a swimming pool, a nightclub, and a zoo. The prison was not only home to inmates, but also to a number of their relatives and partners. They have since been kicked out of the penitentiary, and the prisoners are being moved to different facilities. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has praised the operation, calling it a great success in the fight against criminal organizations. Global media mogul Rupert Murdoch has announced his retirement as chairman of Fox and News Corporation. The 92-year-old billionaire made the announcement on Thursday and said that he will take on a new role as chairman emeritus. He will be replaced by his eldest son, Lachlan, who already serves as chief executive of Fox Corporation. Over the last 70 years, Rupert Murdoch has grown his father's small Australian newspaper company into a global media giant. He is stepping down at a time when businesses under News Corporation are dealing with the fallout from a defamation lawsuit, where Fox News agreed to pay voting machine company Dominion nearly $800 million. And finally, Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin and 16 other writers are suing the creators of ChatGPT over copyright infringement. The suit, filed in a federal court in Manhattan, New York, alleges that OpenAI used the author's literary works to train the system. It called the action systematic theft on a mass scale and a flagrant and harmful infringement of plaintiffs' registered copyrights. In one instance, the lawsuit says that a certain prompt generated literary material that used the same characters from Martin's existing work. ChatGPT and other AI systems like it learn by analyzing large amounts of data, either fed to them or sourced online. An OpenAI spokesperson has responded, saying that the company respects the rights of authors and believes that they should benefit from AI technology. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Many upper parts of the country had a brisk start to the morning. In mountainous regions had single-digit morning temperatures. Afternoon highs are running a couple of degrees higher than yesterday, so they are leading to wider gaps in readings today. Finally seeing some dazzling sunshine nationwide with high UV rays, but it's a good day to spend some time outdoors. We haven't had blue skies lately. However, Jeju Island is forecast to see 5 to 30 millimeters of passing rain through the late afternoon. Most parts are having highs around 26 to 27 degrees Celsius. And you know, it's easy to come down with a cold with roller coaster temperatures, and I think I'm getting one myself. Dress accordingly and take care. We'll have mostly cloudy skies this weekend with more up and down temperatures, with rain in the forecast in the east of Gangwon-do province through the weekend. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the top stories at this hour. Coming up next is yet another edition of our Issues and Insiders, during which we delve into President Yoon Suk-yeol's latest address at the UN platform aimed at seeking broader solidarity against global challenges. See you soon.